Okay, welcome back. This is part 2 of Teaching with Netbooks here at the FETC conference in Orlando, Florida in January 15th, 2010. All right, so my name is Brad Flickinger, and let's continue on with part 2 here. When we left off last time, we just talked about how we desperately need the tools to be able to teach the skills. And so now let's go into our test classroom of 4th grade students where they got 24 of these little netbooks last spring, and we tried them out in there to see how they what happened in a classroom when you'd have all these netbooks. Okay, let's review what a typical netbook day looks like. So I'm going to start the video here, and I'm just going to tell you basically what we saw happen in the classroom. So the day would start off with the bell ringing, the students coming in, and they would just go over to their bins, and they would take their netbooks out of their bins, and then bring them back to their desks, start them up, get them going, get logged into the network, and then they would log into their email. And then in the email, they would see the email from their teacher that would give them basically their assignments for the day. And they normally started off every day with keyboarding, with maybe 10 minutes of keyboarding. Now, I've got to tell you that in those 12 weeks, those kids improved their keyboarding, not just a little bit, but by leaps and bounds. What normally would take years to teach them in keyboarding skills, they developed in a number of weeks because they did it every day. So rather than just the once a week in a computer lab doing a little bit of keyboarding, they were doing it every day. So it was just absolutely amazing to see their keyboarding skills develop. So they would do a little bit of keyboarding, and then maybe they would do, let's say, some math fractions games. So they're learning about how to add fractions, and so they would do a few little games on that, and they would conclude off, with maybe doing a little bit of time researching something online that the teacher might have assigned for them. Basically, there would be about 40 to 45 minutes of time at the beginning of the day. And look at this from the perspective of a teacher. You have a beautifully quiet classroom that you can work one-on-one then with students, because all the other students are engaged in what they're doing. They're watching a lesson, they're participating in some math games, those type of things. They're doing the things that leaves the teacher time to be able to work in a small group or pull them aside or work one-on-one or even have some planning time to be able to create the next part of the day. So then the 45 minutes would end, they'd go out to recess or they'd go off to art class, these type of things. And then they might come back and then log in and use their netbooks for other things, like let's say being able to do their science work. They would look at some science simulations and even collect data by attaching the data probes to the netbooks, even haul them outside to collect data and those type of things. So that, and in this case, they were collecting data to work with a school down in Costa Rica. So they had met someone through the ePals program, and they were going to exchange information that way. So then they go for lunch, and then you got to remember these netbooks keep going back to the charger, so they're staying charged. And then they come back from lunch, and it might be maybe some reading time that they have. Of course, no netbooks for that. They're just doing some simple reading, maybe some writing exercises. And then it might be time to get into math. And then what we found out, though, is these kids, instead of taking days to learn these concepts, we're learning them in just a few short hours because the games worked so well for them. Math games work brilliantly well. And so the students that get it just can go faster and faster and faster. The students that don't get it, it was really neat because they got that instant feedback saying, you got this wrong, you couldn't advance through the game or whatever, and so they would adjust themselves to get it right. Where the old way is maybe they would do a worksheet or do this or that, and then the next day or 2 days later they'd find out, oh, you did them all wrong, you don't know how to add fractions yet. So those type of things. So we really got excited about the things that we saw happening in the classroom and how quiet and calm, and it's not that we want all these kids just plugged into a computer. That's not what it is. It's the fact that we talk about the boredom of our students, and these kids are engaged, they're working, they're doing great things, and it was just really amazing to see what a typical netbook day was and how easy it was for the teacher to have these in there. And these students love having netbooks. When we had to finish this program, I think everybody's crying, and including the teacher, about having to give these back. So it was really utterly just amazing to see how these netbooks worked. So that really is the end of part 2. That showed you a typical day in a netbook classroom. When we come back, we're going to talk about 21st century skills and some of the particulars about having netbooks in there. So I'll see you in part 3.